Hi, Rosalia. Hi, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning. And okay, now we have so many speakers.
I'm just trying to, hold on, I have to, oh, how am I going to increase the sound? I need to increase the sound. I can hardly hear you.
Mm-hmm. That's
I'm
why
not home. I'm at my parents.
Okay. I find headphones quite convenient, actually.
Volume here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, any better?
That's better.
Yes, it is.
That's much better. Can
Perfect.
you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. So, Rosalia,
So I'm
thank
at,
you.
I'm at my parents' place. I slept over
How's your mother?
here in the basement where my father would always sit.
Mm-hmm. But how's your mother feeling now?
She's fine. She's much better. You know, she's healing very well from the surgery. So you know, I spent the weekend here. I always come on Saturdays, but I came Friday night and I slept over Friday, Saturday. She's doing well. She's recovering well.
Good. So, anyways, so thank you for being part of the symposium, and looking forward to hearing about heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation. So, Rosalia, you have to tell us about yourself as much as you want to tell us about yourself, because I realize that's also important in terms of connecting to heart, soul, and spirituality. So please.
Okay. Well, I don't know what you want to know about my, besides the fact that I'm a mediator. You want to know why I went into mediation? so it connects with the heart and soul. Okay, so let me see. Well, first of all, as you already know from previous sessions, I'm a jurist by training, but I decided to go into mediation in 2010. I decided to basically shift the focus of the work that I do, the practice in the legal profession, because mediation always attracted me, even when I was a student. At the beginning, when I was a student, it was at let's say the beginning. It was starting to be. They were starting to teach it in law school. So I took a few courses and it resonated with me. And the reason it did is because I realize now is because of my upbringing. Basically, I've been brought up, I've been raised by my parents as a practicing Catholic. I mean, I would go to church every Sunday. I still do. And even as a child, my mom would drag me along when she went to Mass, but she was also, my mom was also involved in prayer groups, weekly prayer groups. And I was a child at the time. And so she would, you know, there was no question of putting me in a daycare. So she would, you know, she would take me with her to church. And these prayer groups used to be held on Monday nights, and they were in the basement of the church, and there was a small chapel there. And I remember there was myself, and there was another one of my friends whose mom used to bring her. And they would have an hour prayer, like meditation, which was led by the priest. It started as a tiny group. It was a circle of dedicated parishioners and volunteers in the church. And then the priest would give a little bit of a homily, and then they would finish with a mass. Now, usually in the mass, you have all servers, like altar servers. You know, there's a whole in the Catholic faith in the mass, as if you've seen any on TV, like through the Vatican, you'll see that. You know, there's a whole protocol with the service, and you always have servers that are assisting the presider. Okay, so I think I was maybe 8 years old at the time, and the parish priest said, "Okay, you're going to help me. You're going to serve mass with your friend." I had no idea on the protocol. I was quite nervous at the time, I remember. So I had to learn, because there's a whole ritual. When the priest has to handle sacred objects like a chalice, his hands have to be washed, although they are already washed, but there's what do you call it, a protocol. So you pour the water on his hands, and you have to give him it's a pristine towel, and he wipes his hands. Then he uses that water as symbol and wine, and he pours it in the chalice, and it's a symbol of actually Easter, like the resurrection of Christ, the Last Supper, basically. And it's all symbolic in the Catholic faith. So I learned all this. I had to learn, and as I went along, I mean, I grew in the church, and I started serving. I became a volunteer. I would also teach catechism, which was just Sunday school, which is Catholic doctrine to other children, and I would serve at church. And so there was always a spiritual dimension. I mean, it wasn't just going to mass, it wasn't just following the rituals, but it was also listening to the scriptures, and I think that influenced my mindset, basically, and it brought me to where I am today, basically. That I've always been, I've always liked to be connected with spirituality, and with the higher being, which is for us, God. We would, in my case, the higher being, I would label him as God, and because of my Catholic upbringing, then there's Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, and the whole Catholic doctrine, and it influenced the choices that I made in my career. So I went into law because I always wanted to, I was a firm believer in justice and the higher good, and as many jurists are when they start, and of course there's an element of disillusionment. That always happens to all of us, and that goes without saying, but it's a good learning path. It's a good growth. And I realized that I wanted to do more. I wanted to help. I wanted to combine. I felt that there was a higher purpose. It wasn't just about practicing the profession. And so what resonated with me was mediation, because I felt that I could combine the spiritual aspect of compassion and listening, and not being judgmental, with also helping people, and using the skill set that one acquires with training, not only as a jurist, but as a conflict resolution practitioner or a mediator or any ADR form. So that was why I started I basically focused my my practice towards alternative dispute resolution, mediation, conflict coaching, because I felt that it resonated more with my character and my upbringing. So it's basically my upbringing that brought me to this. There was also a lot of soul searching, because I realized I didn't just want to apply whatever legislation for the sake of applying legislation, or I did a little bit of litigation, and I found that yes, when I was younger, I got a thrill out of it, but as I matured, I realized there was more in life. Everything is, you start seeing the connections with spirituality, with everything in life, basically, with nature, and with connections, with the interconnections also with other humans and human beings, basically, and relationship, how important relationship is. And you go back to the basics. And for me, going back to the basics was going back to my upbringing, in my childhood, and the spiritual upbringing, the practice of, in my case, it was the Roman Catholic faith, basically the doctrine of the Roman Catholic faith. But there are connections in all practices, and there's similarities. You see it. You see the relation. There's not much difference. It's just in the way that we practice. That it's a little different. But I think the basis is the same. That all human beings would need connection, basically. And
well, this was actually this was exactly what the idea behind the symposium was, to highlight these aspects which sometimes I think don't get discussed. So the mediator, the person, the spirituality of the mediator, that aspect, like you said, and of course you said soul searching. Now, of course, you will highlight, you tell us more about the soul, and then the connection with the soul and all that. You're going to tell us all that also, and then yeah.
Okay, well, the soul searching, I did a lot of soul searching. I remember, in the early 2000s, I actually have a story about that. What happened was I decided, I took a trip to Italy. Okay, I decided to take a course I had a course in international humanitarian law. This course was held in Florence, but it was my first time traveling alone to Italy. So what I did was that I went to Rome first. I was there for first 10 days and 5 days. And then I spent 4 weeks in Florence for the course, and then I returned to Rome for another week. But that first week in Rome, I happened to be there. Well, first of all, I have to say this. When I was a student, I was working as in a daycare with the children, okay? But this daycare was run by nuns. The Suora Blat, the sisters of the Oblate sisters, basically, and their mother house is in Rome. And when I was working at this daycare, one summer, the Mother Superior came to visit from Rome. And when I met her, she said, if you ever come to Rome, come and stay with us. You're welcome to, because they have they have teachers that basically teach, they have kindergarten schools, kindergarten all the way to maybe first or second grade in elementary. And the children, they live there like a residence. And so they have teachers that also live in residence. So they have a lot of property, and it's right in Rome, in the suburbs. She said, if you ever come to Rome, you're more than welcome to visit us and stay with us. So since I was going to Italy and I was traveling alone, I didn't know anyone in Rome at the time. So I called them up. I actually called them up and I said, I'm going to be in Rome. Would I be able to, would there be availability, to stay there? Oh, yes, of course, you're more than welcome. So I went, and my God, I was so, well, first of all, when I arrived, the Mother Superior sat me down and practically gave me an interrogation. Why are you here? And she wanted to see if how serious I was. And so I explained to her that I was going to take this course in international humanitarian law in Florence. It was at the European University Institute. It was the Academy of International Law. It was a summer school. What a beautiful place. But anyhow, so I was explaining this to her, and I was explaining that I always had an interest in international law, and that I wanted to explore that humanitarian law. I was thinking of specializing in that area, or perhaps, I was trying to figure out what avenue I was going to take in my career. So I said, that's why I signed up for this course. So she was quite impressed. Now, as it so happened, that week that I was there, the last day, the Sunday, because then I had to leave that Sunday evening. I was taking the train for Florence. There was a big mass at the Vatican, and they were beatifying. His name was Padre Pio. They made him a saint. Okay, so I had no idea that this whole event was going to be taking place, and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to go to mass at the Vatican. I would like to see what mass at the Vatican is, like in the outside in the square. So the nun, and I remember that day it was so hot. It was June. It was like 40 degrees for us. I'm Canadian, so it's very hot, 40 degrees Celsius.
But it wasn't 40. Rosalia, it wasn't 40. It was maybe 35. Let's put it at 35.
Well, for me, that's like being in the Sahara Desert. Really, really hot. So I still remember, it was such a big event for the Catholic. I didn't realize how important this spiritual individual was for the Catholic Church. He had followers. I mean, he had passed away maybe 40, 50 years since then, but he had followers because he had performed so-called, they called them miracles or whatever, healings on people. He was a spiritual leader in the Catholic Church, and the Vatican finally had decided to make him a saint, to beatify him. So it's a huge mass, huge undertaking. There was people from all over the world, delegations from every corner of the world, with flags and whatnot. So the square, to go into the Vatican Piazza, I mean, you needed tickets to get in. You don't pay for the tickets, but you have to reserve, because there's hundreds of thousands of people. So I had no idea. I mean, I was there innocently. I said, you know what, I'm going to go. And so the nun, she says, are you sure you're going to be able to get in? I said, oh, don't worry, I'll find my way, So she said, well, if you get in, can you bring me a program? I didn't realize, all the protocol, and I was just clueless. I was a tourist. And I remember being on a city bus, and there was a woman talking to the bus driver. She was a local woman from Rome, and she just and she started. She started talking to me, and she said, "Are you going to the Vatican?" I said, "Yes." I go, "I would like to." She goes, "We won't be able to get into the square," but she goes, "Come with me." She says, just accompany me. We'll find a place." So we tried to get into the square. We couldn't. It was packed. It was completely packed. But because she was from Rome and she knew her way around, she asked one of the Swiss guards, where's one of the best vantage points? So he said, go on listen to this, La Via della Conciliazione, which means the street of conciliation. So it's like I was praying for a sign right at that time. I was in self-reflection, and I was asking for, I was really saying, help me to find my way, my path. I know I have to do something more with my life, but I feel like what I'm doing right now, it's just not enough. It's not feeding me. I need to develop, in an area where I can be of service. Something that's, that's going to fulfill my purpose. So I was asking for a sign. So anyhow, we couldn't get into the square. So she takes my hand, and she was quite pushy. I still remember. And we ended up, there were barriers on the street, but we ended up right where the barriers were. So because at the end of the Mass, at the time, the Pope, what he used to do was he would get on the Pope mobile and he would go down and he would bless all the people, the participants, but there would be people lined up on that street. And the street is called La Via della Conciliazione, which means conciliation in Italian. So as she pulls me, at that time I was already working in the Canadian government. Where does she take me? Where do I find myself on that street? Right at the corner of they named that street Via della Conciliazione and Padre Pio, which was the saint that they were beatifying. And then right before me, what do I see? The Canadian Embassy with the flag. I was like, oh my God, if this isn't the sign.
Too many signs, too many signs. Yeah.
My God, if this isn't the sign, I don't know what's not, So I said, oh gosh, I think I got my sign. I have to be doing conciliation, mediation, and it's within the federal government. That's the path I have to take. I had my answer. And as it so happened, the Pope did come down on his Pope mobile at the end of the service, and he was blessing all the people that were present. There were hundreds of thousands of people. I can't even begin to tell you. But because this woman was so resourceful, and because we were right at the barrier, I was so close. I could see, I eyeballed him. Like, I think I was maybe 6 feet away from the Pope, and he literally stared in my eye. I smiled at him. He smiled back. This was Pope John Paul II, and it was, what a feeling. I was like, I can't believe, and that's where I realized, okay, this is the sign for me, that I interpreted it as the sign of, so this is what I should be working on, because I was doing a lot of self-searching for months, and I was journaling and was trying to figure it out. And then so that at the end of that day, I went back, and then I was able to also bring back to the mother house, to the Mother Superior. She had asked me for a program. So on the way back, I still remember I said, I need to bring some programs. So I had to go take the bus to get back to the mother house. And as I'm going, I see a box, literally a box full of programs. So I asked the Swiss guard, I said, can I take a few of these programs? He says, why don't you could take the whole box. So I said, actually, you know what, I will. I said, I'll bring them back to the convent, And I did. I brought them back to the Mother Superior. She couldn't believe her eyes. She's like, oh my God, you have no idea how much this, because it's full of prayers, and it's a whole service. It's really beautiful. And a lot of the nuns wanted to go, but they didn't go because it was so hot that day that the people that were in the square, there were people that were actually fainting from the heat. They had heat strokes, and I never saw this, that the public services were actually spraying water, with water cannons on the people that were present. For me, this is all a novelty. I'm coming from Canada. I mean, I'm not used to this kind of weather. But anyhow, so I brought back those programs to the Mother Superior, and she just couldn't believe her eyes. So I obviously I took a few for myself, but and then I took the train that evening, and I made my way to Florence for the courses, and the courses touched upon humanitarian law, and also conciliation. I had some of the best. I lucked out. I had some of the most renowned professors in the field, and it was quite an interesting group. We were jurists. There were also some judges from the States, from all over the world, basically, and I spent a month. It was a wonderful month, and I found my way, basically. And from there, when I returned back to Canada, I started looking into, acquiring training in conflict resolution, in mediation, and continuing my studies so that I could become an accredited mediator and start practicing in the field. Because I saw it as a calling, basically, more than just it was a calling, and I still see it as a calling. I see it as for me, it's very fulfilling. It's a way of making a difference. So I do see the connection with spirituality and mediation. What I find that in the practice, it does call upon a lot of principles, that I've been taught in my Catholic faith, but which are also taught in other faiths as well, in Jewish faith and Muslim, and which are very common. And it's about compassion and helping one another, and not judging, like transforming relationships, like forgiveness, basically, reconciliation. That's so
it's a very basic aspects of dealing with people, interacting with people, such basic aspects, and which I think is something, maybe, I don't know, you picked it up. Maybe a lot of people don't pick up those things. These are discussed, but you have those aspects. So that is why I've asked you that whole connection I'm trying to make, and you are going to elaborate more on that connection, and then on that connection between parties, with the parties, in that process, all that. Rosalia, there's lots to discuss. You're going to tell us a lot about all this.
Well, the connection with the parties, the thing is, you have to bring the parties to that. The parties, first of all, have to be ready. For me, it's a question of asking. The first thing I ask, is why are you here? Okay. Why did you choose mediation? Okay. Because, if they're not in good faith, it's not going to work. Because, we all have those so-called cases from hell. Where the parties are trying to use mediation to get information so that they can use it in later on litigation, which they're not supposed to, but they try, that would be my first question would be that why mediation? What motivated you to go for mediation? Usually it's because they're tired of being in that circle, in that dispute. They're tired. It's exhausting for them, and they want to move forward. Basically, they're either stressed out, they're just tired of the situation. So that's a start. Okay. So, and then from there, what I think is important is to humanize both sides. Okay, is to make them see obviously their commonalities. Okay, is really to bring that out so that they can see it for themselves, that it's like we have more in common than differences, and perhaps why this dispute is taking place is because the egos are in the way, and it's my way or the highway. But in the end, sometimes you both want the same results. You're aiming for the same objective, but you're just going about it in a different way. I think a lot of times that that's what I see. So I think it's a question of bringing that out, and how, and it's by trying to highlight the similarities and how everything is connected, how we're all connected, how we're connected with each other, how we're connected with nature, even how everything has its place.
Yeah. So the larger connectedness of humanity and connecting to that, something, those are the things, important things, which of course need to be discussed and put out there, that there is lots on that aspect also which happens. So that's important. And what about other aspects of connecting souls and connecting hearts and all that. I mean, Rosalia, we're exploring things. We're just putting thoughts out there. So,
well, yeah, obviously connecting souls, connecting hearts. It's basically it's showing. Basically, a lot of times why is there a conflict? It's because you cross that line in the sand. Okay, it's your value system. Everybody, we all have a certain value system, and if somebody hasn't respected our value system, we feel offended. Okay, so but it's basically making the other party see like how by how a certain action has affected the other person, basically, and how can you restore that. A lot of times it's by the apology, the importance of the apologizing, just apologizing, just by recognizing the fact that, okay, this action caused this effect on that person. Okay, just by acknowledging that, then they'll go towards apology and reconciliation. It's a step-by-step process. Obviously, they have to be ready. They really have to be ready, because if your egos are in the way, then you could talk all you want. It's not going to happen. They have to be ready intellectually and also spiritually. So you have to bring that out. You have to show them that they have more in common than differences. There's more commonalities. I mean, those are the basics of mediation. Like when we show, okay, what's your best alternative to agree your BATNA, whatever. What's your best alternative negotiated agreement? So what do? You show. What could first? What are your commonalities? Like what you have in common. What are the differences? And usually you'll note when you start making that list, you'll see that you have more in common than differences. And it's from there that you start bringing the parties together. And that's where you make the link with the connect, how we're all connected, basically, how we all want the same thing. Humanity we all want the same thing. I mean, I realized that when I started traveling, when I for courses, or I started traveling. I started and also when I was working outside of Canada, when I was working at the UN, and I was meeting people from every nationality from on the globe, and you start talking to people, you might have different, obviously, and Vikram, you have so many people on your show from all over the globe, from different nationalities. We might be from different areas of the globe, but everybody, human nature, we all want the same things in the end. Everybody wants the same thing. What do we want? Socrates had said it. If you take away food and the basics, that's what causes conflict. Food, shelter. When people feel threatened, when their livelihood feels threatened, that's what causes conflict. But if you give people food, bread, manna, shelter, you give them the basics, okay, then you already diminish the conflict, okay? But then you have to build on that. Then you have to go to the next level. It's Maslow's theory, basically, basic needs. He pegged it, if you look at Maslow's theory, first we go for the basics: food, shelter, we need to sustain ourselves, and then we go to the next level, which is the spiritual. We start working on that.
Yeah.
Enlightenment.
I think interesting thing that has also come out is because when I put it out, I said the thought behind it is to explore and maybe highlight the importance of the heart, soul, spirituality in relation to the mediator, the parties, and the process. Now I'm going to add dispute also in relation to the dispute itself, where the heart, soul, and spirituality play a role, where the disputes happen, and where the lack of certain things create those disputes. I think we have to also discuss that part also. That's also which has come out from what you were saying.
Well, it's a lack of resources. A lot of times it's a fear of lack of resources. Why are disputes happening? Okay, there's competitiveness for what? It could be a work-related dispute. It could be a landlord and a tenant. Okay, the landlord wants a higher rent, and the tenant doesn't want, is not able to pay, a higher rent because the cost of living is, the inflation, whatever, is too high, and so the disputes begin. Or the tenant would like something fixed, something that's broken, that's fixed, but it's very costly, and the landlord doesn't want to let's say invest in that, because right now his resources are limited, because he has to put his resources elsewhere on something which is more priority, and so there's a lack of understanding. There's a breakdown in communication, because the one hasn't communicated to the other one that what his needs are. Like he can't right now because he's got other priorities. So his first answer is no, I can't. I'm not willing to pay extra rent. Let's just for sake of example, and the other one says, well, you have to. Inflation is up. My costs also are rising. I have to pay higher taxes, for the property that you're living in, electricity and water and whatever. And so I need the rent increase to cover those costs, because so where does the mediator come in? Is to have them verbalize what their needs are on each side. That's the mediator's role, basically. You have both parties verbalize it, but how do you do that? You first have to identify what their needs are on both ends, and once they verbalize it, and you kind of humanize both sides, like the perceptions. You break down the walls of perception, basically, the preconceived notions that the tenant might have the notion that the landlord is greedy, that he wants more money, it's all about money, and he's already rich, he owns a building, but the tenant might not realize that the cost of owning that building is also the burden of owning that property is a lot on the landlord. He doesn't realize that. So where the mediator comes in is having the landlord verbalize that, and the tenant realizes, like, well, we have more in common. We both have a lack of resources on each end. So how can we help each other? Where do we find the common ground? Like, where we both win, basically.
Because what we need to explore is at what point and due to what reasons does the heart go out in relationships? Where does that soul connection go out? So like you said, the Maslow's need hierarchy theory, at the level of basic needs, do these aspects don't play a role, and people move away from these things? That spirituality aspect of it, does it not apply when the basic needs are what you need, is what you're talking about? So I mean, something that just a thought, Rosalia. We're just exploring, like I said, we just exploring.
It does apply. Well, first you identify what the basic needs are. You identify them, okay? Then you have them verbalize it, but then and then the next step is to go into the heart and soul, is to humanize each party. It's basically to have the parties verbalize, I can't do this because I'm my resources are limited, and and the other one could say, well, I can't give more than this much because my resources are limited. So it's like, and then when you have them talking, then they realize, well, okay, you're a good tenant. So the landlord will say, well, you're a very good, you've always been. Then you bring them into the relationship, like that they've always had a working relationship. Like for instance, a tenant, you have a good tenant that's, the landlord never had any problems with this tenant. He's a good tenant. He pays his rent on a month, on time, on a monthly basis, and he's never had issues with him. And why all of a sudden are we in this dispute? It's because we both have a lack of reason. So how can we get past this? But to get past this, they have to first create that dialogue. They have to verbalize you know, what their situation is. And then you start creating the connection, you know, by them verbalizing, by having them dialogue, they realize that the other person is not such a bad person. So that's where you bring the connection in, the heart, it's the spirituality, that there's the spiritual element. That's where you bring in the compassion. You know, like, okay, compassion is understanding, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, basically. It's not just about myself, that selfishness, me, myself, and I. It's like, no, I couldn't care less. That's your problem. You have to take it. You have to bring them to the point where, no, you know, you have to care, because you know, his situation affects you, directly affects you. So you have to care for them. We are all interconnected. For instance, look, another example. Look, we have it on the news every day. Everything that's happening in the Ukraine right now, it's affecting the world. It's affecting the world. Not only, you know, it's heart wrenching just, you know, to watch what's going on. You know, people dying senselessly because of a war. You know. But at the same time, that war is also now affecting the economic situation worldwide. Inflation is going up because, like they say, or whatever, Ukraine was, what is it, the breadbasket of the world. It's affecting the world. It's affecting in Africa also, everywhere. You know, prices are going up for wheat, and you can't cultivate now that, well, how are they going to cultivate? There's a war going on. So it's affecting our prices everywhere, worldwide. I mean, that's the economic situation. Then there's a humanitarian aspect, watching people being slaughtered, and, you know, when there should be a humanitarian corridor. Like, so that's a perfect example of how, you know, we're all interconnected. Now, I feel sorry for them. I've been thinking, you know, the United Nations Secretary General is supposed to be going on Tuesday to speak to the leader of Russia, the two leaders, actually. He's got a hard job on his hands. He's got a very difficult job. Because, you know, I know they're already mediating, and Turkey is acting as a mediator, the leader in Turkey. And there's also other leaders, I think, from Austria, from what I understand. But, you know, they need to negotiate a ceasefire for them to move forward for mediation. How are they going to do that? They have to, basically, they have to bring to the table the fact that the heart and soul, exactly, how everyone is interconnected, how this war is affecting everyone, how people are dying senselessly, how the actions of one is not only affecting their nations, but is affecting the globe worldwide. You know, so they have to bring it to a different level. And how do you do that? You have to humanize. What I find that you basically have to humanize both sides to each other. Basically, you have to make both sides see how, you know, it's not just by putting a ball and, you know, shooting one in, you know, in the head that you're going to solve the problem. No, they have to sit down and they have to come to a resolution, basically. It can't go on.
Because what we were discussing with Sarah, you know, she's from Australia. So she works with the indigenous communities there. And what we were talking about was the fact that leaders in those communities bring in that mediator mindset. And of course, the heart, soul, spirituality for me is part of that whole mindset. So that aspect of leadership and those qualities, those elements, they, I think, went away from the leaders. So I think what we need to do now is, of course, I've been saying this, and that's another focus area. The people who have that mindset and have these things, now they should be also playing a role in leadership roles in communities, and of course, ultimately nationally and internationally. So I think we've lost out on those good people because the power play that politics brought in, I think, moved it away from these basic aspects of an individual which were required. And these people were not valued. So we need leaders with these qualities. And then maybe, I mean, if when you have lots of these leaders out there, and maybe all of them should have that, then I think, I mean, there will be changes at the global level. We might feel them, because it's one is to,
Well, those leaders are what you call track two actors, okay? Because right now, usually at the global, let's say at the global level, what happens is the tendency, okay, is to have heads of state usually negotiate settlements, okay? But the thing is, heads of state, they have a vested interest normally, okay? They have their own vested interest for their state, for their country, okay? So they're already going there with a vested interest, okay? What you need is a third party actor, let's say exactly, it could be an indigenous leader, it could be somebody, for a mediator from a non-governmental organization, you know, that could be specialized in negotiating, let's say, for a humanitarian, let's say the humanitarian corridor for refugees, you know, for people to exit the war-torn areas, okay? So the thing is to bring these actors to the table, and they have that mediator mindset. There are people out there. There are many. There's hundreds and thousands. There's so many non-governmental organizations. There are a lot of mediators. The profession has expanded so much in the last 20 years, and we have people like that, but it's to give them that place at the table. And the problem is that the heads of state are not always open to it. If they give them a place at the table, usually they give them secondary roles, okay? Usually a mediation at that level is going to be mediated by a head of state or a special envoy from the United Nations, or in this case, like say the Secretary General. He's going to go there. He's going to start the dialogue. He's going to try to facilitate, to start a dialogue session. But eventually, I don't know if he's going to stay at the table, but he's definitely. And then he's got a mediation team. He's got a mediation support team at the UN that are specialized in this. Okay, and they're highly qualified, and they're very experienced individuals. But that's not enough. You also need other actors, exactly, with the mediator mindset. It could be from the indigenous communities, they could be elders, or a community leaders, religious. There's also religious leaders. The Vatican has been known to also mediate. Vatican representatives of the Vatican state have also been known to mediate a lot of international disputes in the past. They've been, they're usually involved in the background. Okay. Usually what happens, like I said, is in the forefront, you have the heads of state, but behind those heads of state, what most people don't realize is that there's a whole, usually there should be like a whole army of mediators, because two people can't do it alone, or one mediator cannot mediate a conflict that's at this level, which is as a potential of becoming a third world war. Basically, you need an army of mediators right now, because you need to mediate at all different levels. You need to mediate not only a ceasefire, but then you have to negotiate all kinds of other logistics, the humanitarian passageway, also the logistics for the refugees, that are leaving. They need support. Also, you have to also you need negotiators for them. Also to help them in their rites of passage, whatever country they're going to, or there's so much.
But here, what I'm saying is that the heads of state themselves, the people that you are putting up as your heads of state, and the people who are representing people in politics and wherever, whatever level, I mean, starts at the real basic level and then moves to the national level. There, that is where we have to bring out these people who have that mediator mindset, value them, bring them out into leadership positions, so that when we, like the first level that we're talking about, that first level itself has that aspect of it. And heart, soul, spirituality, because we're discussing in this symposium, those elements, are they part of that whole process of bringing people out? Are you valuing them and all? At, I mean, I'm talking about basic politics, wherever it happens at that level, are you looking at that or not?
The thing is that it should be looked at, okay? But the problem is, okay, the heads of state, okay, their hands are tied by policy, by the policies of their countries, okay? Even if they have that mediator mindset, they can only go so far, okay? They can only go, they have to abide by the policy of their country, whatever the political aspirations, okay? Because they're not mediating on their own account. They're mediating for they're representing a country, they're representing a state. Okay, so they're representing the values of that state. So if that state that's mediating, okay, has some kind of vested interest or some kind of side agreement with one of the parties, then or with another coalition, because they have some political agenda, okay, they're going to be mediating, but their mediation can only go so far, okay, because they have an objective. And their objective is so, let's say have a ceasefire because they have a political agenda basically. But if you bring in, let's say, a local actor, let's say a mediator at the basic level, at the lowest, the track 3, which is a community mediator, let's say track 3 mediator, okay. Which would be a community leader, chances are they might be more inclined to have that mediator mindset and apply much more of a, have that more of a spiritual and
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that, of course, you're talking about today the situation, and in this kind of a situation, a mediation happening. Of course, this is something that is happening in the present, whatever the political aspect of it. Let's just, for a moment, I'm keeping that aside. I'm saying that when we are choosing people to represent us, that whole concept of choosing those people to represent us, these values, which should have been the basic values that should have been looked at, I think we moved away from that, and other factors, and not just for leadership. In general, in society, certain other things got valued, and or maybe it was always like that. I mean, these people were not valued. Maybe, I mean, we'll have to look into history and when did we lose out on that? But those are those people that I've been saying that let's value them, bring them out, right at the village level. Forget, I mean, we're talking about national level. At the village level today, is the politics allowing you to bring these good people out, or the power play and the money in politics has even affected villages? So the people who are coming out because of that, do they that level also, if they don't have these aspects in them, then that is what multiplies and becomes the nation. A nation is also these individuals coming out from various places. So,
but that's an individual choice. That depends on the evolution of how evolved the individual is, how spiritually connected the individual is, how much, if the individual mediator I'm talking about, would he be at the community level or at a higher level? Okay, that depends on the individual himself. Okay, if he's going to bring those qualities, okay, those spiritual qualities, compassion, that he or she's going to rely on qualities of compassion, forgiveness and whatever, everything that for them it's a mission, okay, that they don't have a vested interest, that they want to see a positive result, okay, which makes them feel better, okay, because it makes them feel like they've contributed because they brought in a spiritual element, because for them it's a calling, okay, but that depends on the mediator himself. him or herself. Okay, that could be at every level. It could be from the community all the way to the top. That's an individual state of mind. That depends on how much work, how much spiritual awakening that person has, how much work they've done on themselves. Because let's not forget, okay, if one wants to be a successful mediator, you have to constantly improve your skills, but it's not just your skill set. Your skill set is a toolbox that you have, okay, but your mindset, okay, you're not taught that. Okay, you're not taught that in your training, in your professional training. You either have it or you don't. Okay, and that's part of your upbringing, your value system. And if you decide that you want to improve yourself as an individual, and you decide that you want to go to that spiritual path, well, that's your spiritual journey, whether it be through Christianity, Judaism, like any faith. Any faith basis, Buddhist, Muslim faith, because if you look at every spiritual realm, okay, all the, there's a commonality, and what's the commonality? It's humanity.
Which is what I think. What we've been discussing earlier also, that religion and spirituality actually being different aspects. So of course you're looking at it from the religion perspective and then moving to spirituality from there. But a lot of people, I mean, of course, Ken has also spoken about it in his keynote speech. And also a long time back, I don't know, you were also part of that maybe. Last year we had this on mediators, mediation and spirituality. We had people from all over. People didn't connect it to religion. So there is much more there for sure. But of course, a lot of people connected to religion also. I mean, that's your own personal thing. But what I'm trying to get at is that there are certain qualities, and the heart, soul, spirituality playing a role in people's lives. When you look at it from a mediator's perspective, is it looked at, and these things like compassion and everything that you're speaking about, are they looked at as weaknesses in society in general? Because why I'm connecting that to this is that even when people are going to look at mediators, because I still feel that part of it needs a lot of development in terms of choosing a mediator. So in mediators itself, are they even looking at these aspects, or is it a weakness? Are you looking at a certain other kind of mediator which does not bring this, but bring that also? Yeah, we have to explore that also. Yes.
It depends on the individual. Okay, some might see it as a weakness. Okay, if they have a competitive mindset, or if they see it as, okay, no, I need a mediator that's going to resolve a business dispute, and it's not personal, it's just business. Okay, I just want this issue resolved. That's it. That's all. I don't want any emotion in it. Okay, then they might see it as a weakness. But it all depends on the motivation of why they're going into that mediation. Why are they using the mediation platform? That's what it comes down to, basically.
No, Rosalia, I'm telling you.
And then you choose the style of mediator that you want. If you want a mediator that's more spiritual, more compassionate, more touchy-feeling, you're going to see that as a strength. Okay, but if you're looking at it from a more let's say judicial, if you're going the judicial path, in some aspects, not all, but they might see it as a weakness. It all depends. It's a question of it's personal.
Let me tell you, because of course you said commercial matters and business and that kind of thing, people look at it differently. But I put out a video, and I'd done a session with someone where I was a mediator, and this person is speaking about his experience, and he says in that okay, you brought it the human touch. He says in that little discussion. So that video is out there, and I was co-mediating with Mr. Panchu, who's a very senior mediator here. So I mean, the fact that aspect does play a role, if this person is pointing it out, and this is a high value commercial matter, I'm saying that this still does play a role. For me, it will always play a role. So, and if I don't think parties also understand that, because the legal profession, the way it developed, the way disputes are handled with lawyers involved, and the whole way that whole atmosphere is created, people think that's the way to go. I'm saying, no, that's not the way to go. Even in commercial matters, there is some very basic things that you have to connect with. And those basic things, once you connect with, things get resolved. I feel even complex matters get resolved. So I don't want people to move away from it because it is their understanding of how matters and high value matters need to be dealt with. I am going to say, and that's the way I practice it, and that's the way I'm going to go about it, that the human element and that touch, and of course, heart, soul, spirituality aspects are important in every kind of dispute.
But that's what I was saying. It depends on the mediator style. Okay, that's also my style. I like the spiritual. I like the compassion. I like the human touch. I mean, that's my style. That's your style. Okay, but that's not necessarily another mediator style. It depends. It's individual, and the parties are gonna. That's why you have the choice of selecting the mediator that you want, because you're selecting the style of mediation.
No, I'm getting it out from the other end. I'm saying that if you leave it to the parties don't even, they feel that, yes, they want a person with a certain kind of whatever. Is it that authority figure if they're looking for, and that's the way disputes are resolved, and that's the only. No, that's been told to them.
But that comes down to awareness. But it comes down to
exactly
what you're saying. What you're saying is that there needs to be an awareness, basically. People have to be made aware that it's not just mediation. There's another element to mediation. It's not just resolving the dispute. There's that human touch. There's the spirituality. Okay, and that's another level that you're going to right now. Okay. But people are used to most people, a lot of people are not aware of how mediation works. Okay, not everyone understands it. They think that it's court adjunct, so they have that judicial competitive mindset. Okay, and people are still stuck in that, and that's society. That's because of the way it's been portrayed also, in social media, whatever. Okay, so that's up to us, the mediators in the profession, to bring that awareness out there.
But Rosalia, you said a very important thing. Yeah, what you just said is actually really very, very important, that mediation being connected to the court brings in a certain in the person's party's mind also, that it will be a process similar to what happens in courts. And which is why I've been criticizing this entire concept of connecting mediation with courts, for this reason, that people, if they connect it with courts, and you very nicely brought out, they'll connect it to a process which is similar to how things happen in courts. So we have to be able to disconnect mediation from courts. And the sooner it happens, the better it is for mediation in general.
I can tell you, okay, that's the reason why when I start, let's say mediation, I ask the parties, what's your motivation? What do you want from this process? What are you expecting? What are your expectations? Okay. So when they start saying, okay, I want a settlement. Okay, well, the next question is, well, do you think that this is the right process? Because that's when you start explaining what the mediation process is and how it could go, and how it's going to, what the process is going to be like, and how it's going, how I'm going to handle it. Are they comfortable with that? If they're not comfortable with that, well, then they could back out. Because I actually had a case like that recently, where someone was trying to use mediation to enforce a judgment. I said, well, I'm not sure if you're in the right platform here. I don't remember. The person had so many, I can't even begin to tell you how many court judgments against, it was a neighbor dispute, okay? And he wanted the mediator to enforce a judgment. So I had to educate that part, in the pre-mediation session, I had to educate, well, this is not a judicial process, okay? You have a court judgment before you. We don't enforce judgments as mediators. This is not the right platform. So I was explaining, if you want to open a dialogue with this person, then by all means, you're more than welcome to use the services if the other person is willing. But at this point, do you think the other person would be willing with all these court judgments? Do you think that the person is ready to have a dialogue with you when you're constantly bringing him to court? That was the question that I asked. because the understanding there was that the mediation process was like a court process. So yes, I agree with you. There's a spirituality to mediation, and that's up to the mediation professional, the mediators and the ADR professionals to bring up, to make, to have awareness sessions, to educate the public on what a mediation session is and what it could be, how it could be used also at a different level, with bringing in that human touch, the connection, the spiritual connection. You can go, but that depends also on the level of spirituality of the mediator also. It's their style. It depends on their style also, and how evolved they are, how much experience they have, how their evolution as a mediator, how much work they've done on themselves also.
Very nice. All these very nice. Rosalia, I'm very happy. All the words that you use are the ones that I talk about, evolution of a mediator and all that. Are so nice. Nice to hear someone else saying those things.
Exactly, because Vikram, you hit. You really hit the nail on the head, whatever, because it's an evolutionary process. It really is. And right now, everybody, more and more mediation, people are there's a lot of more mediators out there now than there was 20 years ago. But the problem is now we have to educate. Okay, what is the mediation process? How can it be used? How far can it go? What do you want to see it? And work on that. I think that's where we're going.
No, that's why what I'm doing. That's why what I'm doing is I'm working ground upwards. Those people who are out there, and I'm saying they're all out there, right at the base level, in families, communities, villages, they're all there. They have all these aspects to them. People know that they already use them. They actually use them, but they don't value them. I'm saying that these are the people you need to value, because these are people who are not going to come out and say, oh, we are this, we can do this for you. Nothing like that. They're going to be sitting in their corner. When you go to them, they will help you and they will help you resolve, and then you move on. They stay there. But we want these people to be out there being part of dispute resolution, available to masses. I mean, they should be available. And I'm saying online concept that way becomes so much better, that these people can be used anywhere in the world. As we go along, of course, look, language will be an issue for some. But we have so much work in local levels that, of course, international can happen later. But they can be used by, say, you have someone in one village, can be used by people in other villages. Start there in communities, but the aspect is of identification. And then also some people who are already there, they might not be used today. They maybe don't even know themselves that they have that mindset. So read to so certain kinds of, call it lectures or whatever, which I'd done, that lecture series, them to listen to those things, get inspired and say, oh, this is what I really want to do. Because that's what I hear from everyone, that, oh, something changed. I heard this and I said, this is what I want to do. Everyone keeps saying that. But what was that thing that you got? Maybe someone went, like Ken Cloke says, he went for a lecture while he was a judge. There was some lecture about mediation. So he had that opportunity. But how many people have that opportunity? So let's bring this out, send it out. Yeah, exactly. So we need to send it out. Someone sitting in some corner of the world listens to something and just gets inspired and says, oh, this is what I want to do. And then takes it up within their community itself. That's perfectly all right. And then we have lots of these people out there. So which is what how I'm trying to develop it.
But Vikram, it has to resonate also with the person, okay? Their motivations have to be, at that level that they want to evolve, basically. If the person's motivation is just the bottom line, basically, okay, and they just want to use the mediation process, let's say, to resolve something for a settlement, they're not, then, it's going to stop at that. It really depends on the motivation of the parties. Well, first of all, the awareness, the understanding of the process, understanding the process itself, and understanding the potential of the mediation process, understanding that not only can you resolve the dispute, but you also can transform the relationship between the parties, okay? You could go to the next level where not only do you resolve it, but you actually become friends, you transform it, and you move forward from there, and you learn from this dispute that you just experienced, to become a better person, basically. So what is becoming a better person? That's the other question. Evolving spiritually. That's part of spirituality, evolving spiritually. It doesn't, and you're right, it doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't have to be associated with religion. It just has to be associated at a different level spiritually, that we're all, and it all comes down to the concept that we're all connected. Humanity, everyone is connected in the four corners of the globe. Human beings, we're all connected, but we also have to remember that we're also connected with nature, and that we have to respect nature. Okay, and that's part of the resources also. The people, and I mean, they're pushing also this, and we have to respect it, because right now, especially with climate change and whatnot, the alarm has been sounded, but that's been a while by scientists, and we have to respect nature, because everyone has its place. Every human, not only human life, but every living being has a place on this, in the globe, on the globe, basically. And we have to learn to live and coexist, live with each other, coexist.
But that's someone, look, the thing is, Rosalia, the thing is, there have to be people in society in general, and I'm saying the mediator mindset, and those people are important, because those reasonable voices to explain to people, even in terms of climate change, certain things at a very basic level sometimes need to be done. Certain awareness, very simple awareness about things need to be created. But the point is, who's going to do it? Who's going to, I mean, I said that's why these reasonable people in communities, I'm saying sometimes one step in one small little community somewhere, and this all adding up can actually make a change on a global perspective level.
But you're doing it, Vikram. You're doing it. You created a revolution just with your podcast. Look how many people you've had on all your shows. I've never seen. I was just thinking about last night. I said, when do you get time off for yourself? When do you go golfing? By the way,
let me tell you, whenever I do the symposium, my golf suffers. This symposium, again, my golf is suffering.
I was thinking of that. I said, you have one speaker after the next with different time zones, from all over the globe, all over the map, but you're one person. You're one person. You need an army behind you, like you said. Like you've been saying, since from the get-go, you need an army behind you. Okay, now you're starting to mobilize your army. Okay, so where do we go next? What's your next move?
I'm telling you, you people have to take the next move. What am I saying? I'm just saying, identify 1,000 people with the mediator mindset over the next 5 years. I'm not even saying today. Let's do 2026, 4 years from now. Up till then, 1,000 people with the mediator mindset, 1,000 people with the peacemaker's mindset. That's all Rosalia needs. That's it. I am identifying those 1,000. They identify 1,000 of 1,000 peacemakers, 1,000 mediators. We have 1 million of these people out there. I'm telling you, the million of these people with that mindset can change things. So that's how but I'm saying that identification is the most important part, because that gives the right people, give mediation the good name. The process, they understand the process in a different way. I don't want a certain process, a certain box, which has maybe been pushed around as mediation to go around. I'm saying there's much wider aspect of mediation, like this topic I've picked up. I mean, this is for me an important aspect. These are things which I don't hear being discussed, because there are certain very basic aspects which come up in whatever they call it, training. I don't like the word, that, but I'm still using it. But training, what comes out in there. So that last symposium, what was the purpose? That let's connect people with a process they already know. Just connect them with that, rather than pushing a technical term onto them. Rather than that process, which is a part of life in general, connect them to that. So that then connecting people to that mediator mindset as to what all the elements there are, identify those people, it'll all happen. It'll all fall into place the day Rosalia decides, yes, I am going to also do something that Vikram has been trying to tell me to do. One day I will do it. That's the day things will change.
Well, I'm doing it on my end in my work, but the thing is, the problem is it's a question of time. it's resources. Time is a resource which not all of us have much of because we have to work for a living. But the fact that you started these symposiums, okay, is you're creating awareness sessions. But I think if we want to reach out to everyone out there, we have to go back to the basics. It doesn't have to be technical, because the technical, you're going to only attract the specialists in the field. Okay. And yes, and there's tons of platforms for, to improve your technical skills and whatnot. Okay. And also to feature yourself and promote yourself. That's another thing. Because a lot of, the danger is that you want to attract people which have, let's say, the peacemaker, mediator mindset, but at the same time, they're not just there to promote themselves. They're there really because of the cause. And if you're talking about the cause, then you need to create awareness sessions, which will resonate with a person that's not well versed in mediation, that have no inkling of what the process is, but can they become educated as to, okay, you could resolve. You have an issue, you have a conflict, you sit down and you dialogue. How do you talk? How do you dialogue? Elderly people used to do it in the old days. They would sit down, you would have the elder in the community. Mediation has existed since the beginning of time.
Exactly.
It just wasn't formalized, that's all.
But now, no, I tell you what the thought process that I've got today on this is, let's involve school teachers. Okay, let's identify school teachers, explain to them what mediation is, that it is, of course, very simple. There's nothing to explain. That basically, of course, the parties take that decision. No, someone is not taking a decision for you, and the parties choose whom they want. The basic concept. Then they go out into their communities, first ask people whom they feel they can trust to resolve the dispute, help them resolve the dispute. They will identify those people. Let's bring out a few people from there. I mean, you can talk to a few teachers and they can spread the word and identify those people. Then at the same time, telling people to use the process, they can go out and tell them about it and how they should. Then they bring in parties, ask people who have disputes, bring in those parties together, because reaching out to the other party is also one huge process. Everyone can't do it. So and I feel school teachers are still respected in communities, so they will help reaching out to the other side, and then put it all together with, bring this person who has that mediator mindset into the picture, saying, look, this person is there, let's just go to this person, the person will help us, help you resolve your dispute. Bring that whole process together, see, they will experience it. Then from there, I think slowly that movement will grow. That's the way I'm looking at it now.
Well, in fact, the way you're looking at it is the correct way. And there are community organizations that are already doing that. The thing is, the problem is that, they're one community organization. So their venue, I mean, is limited, it's limited to the area where they service. Okay.
I'm changing all that. No, I'm changing all that.
You're thinking of it at a global level.
Yes, but I'm saying that global level, yes, but the individuals. Now, look, I don't believe in this whole organization thing, because I feel putting things in organization discounts the productivity of an individual also. I mean, I'm sitting here doing this all alone, but I am able to at least reach out to some people. I mean, I'm doing something alone. There's no organization involved. Similarly, every individual, when they work on their own, I think the productivity is higher as individuals, and you don't know how much productivity is required by that school teacher to speak to people, because it's it's a dispute that you're talking to people about. It's personal. This is an individual to individual thing. It's not organizational. This one teacher, I'm saying teacher, you can expand it to other people, but I'm saying this teacher is connected to that community, respected according to me, when that person talks to someone on a one-to-one basis, that's when change happens in the person's mind, heart, in terms of reaching out to the other party. So they will help that process. That's why I call them peacemakers. Then on the other end, that individual who has that mediator mindset is to be able, the person can do it in their garden outside. I mean, this whole formal thing around mediation, I want to change that. A nice thing came out from Sarah's session. We were saying mediation table, mediation room. I said, why are we not saying mediation tree? Let it happen under a tree somewhere. They have to change the whole concept of the way people are looking at mediation. So this person, this mediator, you take these parties to the mediator's backyard. They can sit there
in
and
Canada, we can only have it under a tree in the summertime. In the wintertime,
okay.
We're limited.
No, but I'm saying that we don't have to create, but we don't have to create infrastructure, all these community mediation centers. Again, still a formal concept. Come, parties come, you will all go to this room, mediator will come there. No, change all that, because it is a very different concept, a different process. Look, this is the way I am looking at it. I'm not saying all that will stop because Vikram is saying that you have to do it. So no, everyone do what they want. Create communities mediation centers, all do that. My approach is this. It's a very person to person kind of thing. Today, okay, even if this symposium that I do, whatever I do, I'm connected to Rosalia. I send her a message, I reply to that message. I am connected to her. It's not that I put 5 people there. Okay, connect with Rosalia. Is she coming for the symposium or not? What time is she suits her? No, we can't say, we can't do it on a Sunday. We are only fixed on those days. No, flexibility. So Rosalia is free on Sunday. I'll make sure that dinner is going to be converted to lunch, because I want Rosalia to be part of it.
And I appreciate your availability, Vikram.
Yeah, because look, it's important. Your message is important, and that's the point. It's a very individual kind of thing. You as an individual are important. It's not about me setting up a whole thing. Okay, we have a schedule. We are doing it on so and so days. Do you have time? Please come in. If you don't know, we don't want you. Oh, we want you as the individual. You are important as that. It's not a part of, because it's not like we were getting an organization to the picture. But it's a very personal thing. It mediators, or you can create organizations. People have organizations, they call it jams or whatever you might call it. The organization cannot mediate. They have to be individuals. Let's bring those individuals out, is what I've been trying to do, to connect them. I mean, you create these things, infrastructure and everything. How does that help that individual who wants to connect to the other side? They can connect anywhere. They can sit in a park and connect. No, not a problem. But where are those individuals to connect them? So I'm saying that's
the individuals are there. The individuals exist in every community. You have individuals like that.
Yeah.
In every community, you'll have an individual that has a gift for connecting. Even in your families, in your own, in our own families, we have. It could be an elder. It could even be a child. Sometimes I know for a fact that I have a little nephew who's so gifted when it comes to connecting with people. He's a little. Oh, he's just wonderful. Since he was a baby, there's something about
this is what I need. This
it's a quality. It's a quality that somebody is born with. You either, like I said, you either have it or you don't, because the skill set you can develop it, you can learn it.
This is the skill set.
But if you don't have the mindset, and if you don't have, like you said, the heart and soul, excuse me, heart and soul. If you don't have the heart and soul, okay, you can talk the talk, but you're not going to walk the walk. You have to walk the walk also.
That's what I'm saying, that this is what you just said.
It's a complete as an individual, but to do that, either you have to have it, like I said, naturally, like my little nephew, or you have to, you have to have that longing, that awareness, where you develop that because you feel that it's a calling, and it's not for everyone. That's the thing.
No, what I'm saying, Rosalia, I tell you what you said about this nephew of yours. You have been able to identify it, so you know what those qualities are when you see them.
Since he was a baby.
Exactly. So now
he's special.
Exactly. So we have a peacemaker there. We have a peacemaker.
Oh, he is a peacemaker. He's 12 years old, but
so
when he was since what a beautiful boy.
That's exactly what you've got the point. I mean, I'm telling you, these are the clips I need to take out from these and put it out. That this is exactly what I'm saying. That these individuals, people know when they see them, they talk to them, they know these people. So these
He's
are
a
the people we need to
peacemaker.
value. Yeah, these are the people
But
we need to value.
my nephew, I mean, my brother tells me he's unbelievable. He resolves disputes among his friends. Everybody runs to him
Oh,
because he's
wow.
so open. He's 12 years old. I mean, he has no training in mediation, zero. But it's innate. It's
This is
innate in
what
him.
of love you're saying exactly what I'm saying, that these people are out there, they don't need any training. It's just within them to do it. So maybe it's not just a peacemaker, mediator, because I'm trying to differentiate the two. I'm saying a peacemaker might not have the skills to actually help people resolve.
That's
They just
right.
might be able to bring people together, but
That's right.
your nephew actually can help them resolve
Yeah.
and actually as a mediator.
My nephew has a gift. Uh, since the moment he was born, it's a blessing. A little, oh, what a blessing.
Can we
And
have can we do some kind of sessions with him? These are the people we need out there. We need clips of these people out there.
that I don't know. I mean, that's up to his parents. But
Ask them, please ask them. Because this is
it's just. But he's an example that, like you said, there are people out there
exactly.
that have these gifts. Okay, that they're really God-given gifts. Basically,
But
it's you either have it or you don't.
But now I'm going to connect this with Maslow's need hierarchy theory. The
Pardon?
point is, I'm going to connect what you just with this nephew having that those skills, having that basic quality, and I'm connecting it to the Maslow's need hierarchy theory. The point is, finally, what in society, those basic, okay, these are the basics that you need. A person moves away from a path which the person should have followed. This is what a person needs to be. These people have to be out there doing this work, but because of those basic needs concept, moves away from this path and has to get into a certain kind of education that, okay, you have to earn your money. So how, oh, this will not pay you. This is a good thing that you are doing for society, but this is not something that will pay you. So you get into some other direction. No, we need to value these children to start with, and of course the ones who are grown up also, and be able to create a system where they are going to get their basic, more than basic needs. But these are the people we need in society. So society has to be able to take care of them, value them, and then they're going to be doing what they should be doing, instead of them moving out of this and 20-30 years later say, no, this is not my call, that other thing is not my calling is this. And we've wasted 20-30 years of someone helping some people resolve their dispute. And that's a big thing. For 20-30 years, if someone like you got that calling came to you then, but that was part of you. It wasn't something that you as a person changed. No, your thought process towards what you wanted to do changed. So if you were at 12 years old and you knew this is the path you had to do, and this path is actually what paid for your bills, it actually did everything that you needed, that is the ideal setup.
But Vikram, I was doing it also when I was a child, because I don't forget, I grew up with 4 brothers. The only girl with 4 brothers. Who do you think was resolving the disputes? It was me. Even at 5 years, my mom reminded me. She reminded me that when I was 3 years old, I stood up on the chair and I was playing referee. I don't remember that, but she told me, she said, you stood up on the chair and you told everybody, quiet.
So you were the judge. You were the judge at that point of time.
I don't know what I was, but it was because I don't know. She said you stood up on the chair at 3 years old. You literally stood on the chair and you told everybody to be quiet because everybody was arguing, and it's like, quiet. Who's gonna talk first?
So you did intervene. First of all, you wanted to intervene. That's the point, because you wanted things for them to settle things, to be able to resolve the dispute.
I didn't like screaming and all the arguments, and it's like, what's the point? I never liked, and I think that's what why I went into when I studied law. Like I said, I always believed in justice and whatever, and very. It was very
idealistic.
Idealistic. Idealist. That's right. I was always an idealist. I've always been an idealist. But then, then I realized I didn't like the competitive factor, win at all costs. And that's the aspect that I really didn't appreciate much. It didn't resonate with me, you know, it didn't reflect what, you know, my character was. And then when like I said, when I started learning about mediation, and the more I learned, first it started with arbitration, and then I moved into mediation. And the more I learned about it, the more it's like, wow, this looks interesting. But, you know, it was in the infantile stages, you know, like the law faculty, and the more I learned, and then I started, you know, I went for the training, and I said, you know what, this resonates. But at the beginning, you know, you're just applying, you know, basically the process, you know, like you're stuck in the process, you know, you're trying to make it fit in a box, you know.
Yeah.
It's an evolution. It's basically, you have to grow basically as a mediator for you to become, you have to go to the next level, and you have to have that confidence also in yourself.
Exactly.
There's also that aspect. You have to you have to have that confidence that you can make that difference, you know, to be able to put that at the table and say, okay, let's, you know what, let's work it, let's transform this relationship, let's go further, let's explore something else, you know. Besides resolving the dispute, you want to turn this around, you guys want to become friends again, like, you know. I remember one case I had, it was a very important case. It was a case that lasted a long time, because there was multiple parties, okay, but two of the parties in there, I mean, when I say multiple parties, I'm talking about, it was an organizational thing, but the two of the parties in there were best friends from childhood, and they were working together. I mean, they grew up together. They literally grew up together from childhood. Okay, they knew each other from as babies. Okay, and then they ended up working together as men. And the biggest disappointment for them was the fact that they were in this dispute. Okay, that's what hurt them the most. And I remember going and pulling that out. That's what came out in that mediation session. You know, okay, yes, we have to resolve the dispute because it was an organizational. It was in an organizational setting. But more importantly, what made the difference for them, what was a transformation, was bringing them back, was reconnecting and making them reconcile, and so that they can take out, you know, their friendship, they can reconnect again and reconcile their friendship, because that's what hurt. It really affected them. There was one, it affected him, his mental health, because of that, and because it's part of their identity. It's like falling out. I still remember in the session, one of them had said, I feel like I lost my brother, because they grew up together. And that, when we were, you know, I remember that was a big case, because I had to co-mediate, because it was a huge case. I needed a co-mediator. Couldn't do it alone. There were too many parties, but I still remember that session. It was very moving, because it's like we were able to transform, bring them to the next level, not only make them to resolve there was so many underlying issues with work and whatnot, but the most important was resolving that, was, you know, reconciling the relationship, and you know, rebuilding that relationship. So, and I walked out of there. I felt so like that case marked me and my co-mediator, because that's where we really felt that we made a difference. It's like, wow.
This is where, looking at the topic of this particular session on the heart, soul, spirituality aspect, I'm saying that person's soul was affected. When you said the person's mental health got affected, it's because the soul got affected by the entire thing. And to be able to, with what you did, you were able to repair certain things there, and you were able to connect these people on that level. I mean, I'm just thinking maybe, but that is what is actually what that transformation would have been about.
But that happened. The reason why that happened was because during the mediation session, one of the sessions took place in one of the parties' homes. Okay. And that person showed us pictures of their childhood. I saw these pictures, and who do I see? I see the other party in the picture, and I was like, wow, you guys were playing together, you know, in the backyard. Like, this is amazing. They were literally in the backyard playing, like as children, 4-year-olds. It's just like, wow, how do you feel about that? So it was very emotional. I still remember like the stuff that
Rosalia,
came out.
You're just totally proving my point. I said, look, mediations should happen in informal settings, and like you did it in that house, and that picture came out, and of course they connected to that atmosphere there. These are the important things that you're actually saying what I'm saying. This is exactly what we need to put out there. The way mediation has been structured, that box that has been created, is going away from the way I look at mediation.
Totally but that's different. It. But the thing is, that's what I was trying to say. I said, we get stuck in the structure. Okay. We get stuck in the process. Okay. For it to go to the next level, you have to be confident enough to move away. I mean, you need the structure in a sense, like, you need but you don't have to be rigid, like you have to be confident enough to say, okay, let's go to the next level. But the thing is, you have to feel it. You have to work with the parties also.
No, I think what has happened, Rosalia, is that there are people who have that natural ability. Okay, one, of course, some people are not even doing it I mean, they're out there, maybe helping some friends, or maybe in their families, they might be doing it. Okay, they're there. Of course, you need to be identified and brought in. There are some people who have realized, okay, this is what I want to do. And then they go for a training program. They call it a training program. They are told about the process in a certain way, the structure, they're told about it. They have the natural ability, but it gets affected. Their whole confidence level goes down. Think, oh, this is how it's done. I don't know. I've never experienced this. What they have experienced and the way they do it is what mediation is all about. But suddenly their whole confidence goes. And I hear these people talk about it, and they just don't have that confidence. They've gone for these programs and certified and everything, and there's no confidence there. But they really don't know. And it is something that you don't even have to think about. If it's that natural ability, it's something that you have that mindset, it'll all fall into place. You'll know what to do, how to do it. But once you tell someone, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3, oh, they're looking at things from that perspective, they lose that natural ability. So I don't want them to lose that. That's my basic concern today. Mm-hmm. So pick them up raw, pick them up there, and let's take them from there. So Rosalia, now what are your concluding remarks?
Well, my concluding remarks is that, first of all, Vikram, you started a revolution, okay?
Dispute resolution revolution.
Dispute resolution revolution. Okay, it's awareness revolution, I would call it. But revolution, I don't want it to sound pejorative, as we say in French, negative. I'm talking a positive revolution. Okay, where we need to create awareness, basically. Okay, as mediators, as practitioners. Okay, I think what the world needs right now is a lot of healing. Okay, and we have to go back to, we have to remember to be compassionate, to be kind to each other. If everything that, everything that's been going on for the past 2 years with the pandemic, now with this war, I think what we need is to remember that we're all human, we're all on this globe together, and we have to help each other. And it's just going back to the humanity, and everything else is secondary, the titles, the money and all that, it's all, who cares? The bottom line is that we have to be kind and compassionate to each other, and just work towards that. And how? Mediation is one way, that's one tool that, one process that we can use, but we have to do it we have to incorporate that in our daily practice, and just being kind. Just be kind to each other, be compassionate, that's the bottom line. And that's what I try to bring to the mediation sessions. That's my objective. That's why I went into it, because I wanted to make a difference. I said, and for me, it's, just be yourself. If you can help, you help, but the parties have to be ready, but we all have to remember that we need to be kind, just smile, just remember that, we're all one. That's it. Those are my concluding remarks. That's the bottom line. I mean, That's what spirituality is.
But all these words of yours need to, I have understood now, need to go out in mass media. You have to, I think you have to be contributing to some local paper or the national papers or national magazines. I think that should be the approach, that we need to put this message out in whatever media is available. I think that's what you should be out there talking about it. I think within ourselves, we've been doing a lot of talking within the mediator community and everything that's happened. Now, on one end, reaching to the people through, for me, right now, I'm looking at school teachers, reaching to people there, message reaching out through mass media. Let's look at how we can do that, how to send out whatever articles, or you can be giving interviews, whatever I mean, however it has to happen. Please be out there, Rosalia. You're the face of mediation. So
Vikram, you're the face of mediation. You're the one that initiates the dialogues globally with, that brings out the mediators out of their basements.
No, I need my 1,000 to reach 1,000. That's all I'm saying. Nothing beyond that. That's good enough for me.
But you know what? You could practice it also on your golf course.
Absolutely.
Maybe you should do a session on golfing and mediation while you're on your golf course.
I have connected golf with mediation on my Twitter handle. If you look at, go there, that my pinned tweet is this: how mediation and golf, the similarities in it. Let me put it up. Let me put it up for you. I'll put it right here for you, because
okay, I'm gonna look at. I'm gonna.
No, right now. Right now, I'm gonna do it in 1 second. I'm gonna do it, because this is something which I feel is important for people to maybe connect with. Okay, this is the pin tweet.
Okay, golf is deceptively simple and endlessly complicated. It satisfies the soul and frustrates the intellect. It is at the same time rewarding and maddening. It's true. And it is without doubt the greatest game mankind has ever invented.
And the same thing applies for mediation for me.
Yep.
Now you read it from the mediation perspective. Right now you're reading it from the golf perspective. Look at it from the mediation perspective. Mediation is okay. Take out the golf from there.
Okay, mediation is deceptively simple. It's true. And endlessly complicated. It satisfies the soul. Exactly. That's why I went into it. Yeah. And frustrates the intellect. Exactly. It is at the same time rewarding and maddening, and it is without doubt the greatest.
Let's not call it game. The process. Let's just say process. Process mankind has ever invented.
The greatest process, yeah, mankind has ever invented.
So that's how I put it out there.
Has ever invented it and has ever practiced, because don't forget,
exactly.
It's being practiced since the beginning of mankind.
Some words need to be changed. That's all. But I'm saying that's the similarity there. So
exactly.
So I'm practicing something there.
On that note.
Thank you very much, Rosalia.
Thank you, Vikram. It's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. And of course, on the 29th, please do come into that session, that the learnings and key takeaways from the symposium. That's on the 29th at 7:30. So let me just cut the line.